This video is for Integrated 1. This is for the review for semester 1 packet that I passed out. The first problem is the scatter plot problem. So for this, if you pay attention to the table, you have X is going to be the number of hours, and in this case, it's the number of hours spent listening to holiday music. And Y is going to be the number of laughs laughed during the day. So I am going to scale my X and my Y axis. For my X axis, since I'm going from 0 to about 4, I am going to be going 1.5. So I'm going to go 0.51. 1.52, 2.53, 3.54, and this is going to be hours. Okay, that we're listening to Christmas music. The Y is going to be number of laughs, and I need to go up to 38. So I think I'm going to go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. And I'm going to plot these points. So I'm going to be graphing 0, 3. So let's say about here. 0.5, 8. 1, 12. 1.3, 15. 1.8, 17. Let's see, 2.2, 20. 2.5, 22. 328. 3.4, 30. Let's see, 3.9, 38. Okay, so there's my graph. So looking at this graph, you see that it is increasing. It is relatively strong, I would say, looking at it. It's pretty linear, looks like a line. So next thing we're going to do is we are going to use our sentence frames, and we are going to describe the scatter plot. Okay. So for this, I'm going to say there is a strong, positive, linear relationship between the X and the Y. So, oh, and I didn't label this side. This is going to be number of laughs. You always want to label your graph. Okay, so there is a strong positive linear relationship between our X and our Y. Our X is between the hours spent listening to holiday music and the Y, which is the number of laughs in a day. Now they want us to write the equation of the line of best fit. So to write the equation of the line of best fit, we're going to have to put the data into our calculator. So first thing I'm going to want to do is on my calculator, I'm going to press the mode button because I want to make sure that my stat diagnostic is turned on. And so my stat diagnostic is on right here. Okay, you can see it right here. That's the stat diagnostics. You want to turn that on if it's not on. Then I'm going to hit stat, edit, and I put the data for X and L1, and I put the data for Y and L2. Once you get that data in, you're going to press the stat button again, and then you're going to arrow to calculate. And you're either going to come and get number 4 or number 8. Okay, so number 4 is our line of best fit of the form AX plus B. Here, this one is of the form A plus BX. So both of these are choices. I'm going to be picking number 8. And I'm going to make sure to store my equation. And to store my equation, I stop at store regression equation. I press the green alpha button and the trace button for the green F4. That's what I'm looking for. And I'm going to save it into Y1. And here I get my equation. So my A is going to be 3.08. So I'm going to say 3.1. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to say 3.1. Let's see if I make this a little. So I'm going to say a 3.1. And then, let's see, maybe this one will be better. Okay, so 3.1. And then my B is going to be an 8 point, let's say 3. And then I also want my R. Okay, so I need this R. I'm going to need 4 numbers, so I'm going to go 0.9918. That's going to be my correlation coefficient. So looking at this, because my A is the one without the B, I am going to, let me erase that. I am going to be having my equation B. Sorry, I'm just going to make this a little darker. I think I did it the wrong direction. Oops, I've changed that. Okay. Y is equal to my A, which is 3.1, plus my B, which is 8.3x. Okay, that's what I'm going to be writing on my paper. Okay, so let me get my paper back here. So I'm going to write Y equal 3.1 plus 8.3x. That's going to be my line of best fit. Now, on the next question, they're going to ask us to interpret the slope. The slope is going to be this 8.3, sorry, this 8.3. And my y-intercept is going to be this 3.1. So we're going to be using that. So now when I do my sentence frame for my interpret the slope, I am going to be starting out with as the, and it's going to be our x. So as the as the hours listening to holiday music increases by 1 hour, because we're talking unit rate here. Okay, so by 1, whatever the unit is. And this is now going to be my y, the number of laughs in a day since this was an increasing line, okay, the number of laughs in a day increases by my slope, which is 8.3. So 8.3 laughs. Now when I interpret my y-intercept, okay, I am going to say when, and we say when the x is 0, the y is going to be, in this case, 3.1. So when the hours listening to holiday music is 0, the number of laughs in a day is about 3.1. Now on letter F, it says here, if you listen to holiday music for 3 hours, predict the number of times you will laugh. So I'm going to be using my equation. Okay, my equation. So, and I'm going to be putting the 3 hours in for my x. So I'm going to go y is equal to 3.1 plus 8.3 times 3. I'm going to put that into my calculator. And I am going to see what we get. So let me just grab my calculator. Okay, so and before I forget the R, I need to write my R down. So let me come and jot down my R before I don't have it. So my R was 0.9918. I forgot to write that down. Okay. So now into my equation, I am going to go, so I'm just going to move it for a second. 3.1, I'll move it here so we can see it. 3.1 plus 8.3 times 3, and we're going to get 28. So 28 laughs. Now it wants us to calculate the residual. And remember, residual is going to be actual minus predicted. I just found the predicted right now. That is our 28. My actual, I'm going to come up to my table and we're looking for 3 hours. So 3 hours is 28. So in this case, I actually ended up with a residual of 0 because my predicted was the same as my actual. That doesn't happen very often, so that's pretty good. Now we're going to interpret the correlation coefficient. So that correlation coefficient is at 0.9918. So since R equals 0.9918 is, we're going to say either close to or far from. So close to 1 or -1, in this case 1. There is a strong, because it's very close to 1, positive, because it is a positive R, linear relationship between the number of hours listening to holiday music and the number of laughs in a day. Now, the next question says, if you want 25 to laugh 25 times, how many hours should you listen to holiday music? So I am going to take our equation, which was y equal 3.1 plus 8.3x. Now this 25 laughs, that is going to go in for our y. So I'm going to go 25 is equal to 3.1 plus 8.3x. And we're going to solve that equation. So I'm going to minus 3.1 from both sides. So 25 minus 3.1 gives me 21.9. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 8.3. And when I divide by 8.3, I end up with about a 2.6. So about 2.6 hours. Okay. Now the next problem, we're dealing with the bicycle race, okay, the tricycle race. So I am going to set up my X and Y axis. Now remember, the X axis is seconds. So I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The Y axis is going, so let me just finish, 11, 12, 13, 14, and this is going to be 15. And this is seconds. My Y axis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and I'm going to end up, the highest is going to be 13 on this side, and this is going to be meters. Okay, so if I'm dealing with Eric, I'm going to do Eric in this blue. So I know he had a 1 meter head start. So 1 meter head start, I'm going to have a point at 0,1. And he rode his tricycle 3 meters every 3 meters every 2 seconds. So from here, I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3 over 2. Let me make that a little fatter. 1, 2, 3 over 2, and I'm going to keep doing that. 1, 2, 3 over 2. 1, 2, 3 over 2. And then I am going to draw my line. Through there. Okay. And I am going to label this one E for Eric. The next one, let's say I do it in red. So that's going to be Luis. Now for Luis, Luis has an equation. The y-intercept is 3. So we're going to start up at 1, 2, 3. He has a head start at 3. And then we're going to be going up 1 over 2. So they actually meet here, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. And I'm going to keep doing that. And I'm going to connect this with a line. And this one is Luis. Okay, and my next one, let's say I do it in purple. So Valeria is 5 meters into the race after 1 second. So that's going to be the point 1,5. And then 6 meters into the race after 2 seconds. So that's going to be 2,6. So I'm going to plot those 2 points. So I'm going to go to 1,5. Oh, and real quick, I want to just emphasize that right here they met, because sometimes they ask us to find where certain people intersect. Okay. So now let me graph Valeria. So she's at 1,5 and 2,6. So it looks like she's going 1 meter every 1 second, 1 meter every 1 second. So let me continue that pattern. And right here, she meets, oops, doing a different color. She meets with Eric right here. Okay, so let me continue. Oops, doing it in purple. And if I want to continue backwards, she's going to meet here at a start of 4. And then I'm going to connect it. And I'll put Valeria. Now, something I overlooked or I didn't read was that the race is 12 meters long. So I'm going to come to 12 and I'm going to draw a horizontal line. That's where the race is. So they ask who's going to win the race. So as I'm coming across here, the person who's going to win the race is going to be Eric, then Valeria, then Luis. So it's going to be Eric who's going to win the race. He finished the fastest in the least amount of time. So Eric finished in the least amount of time. When does Eric catch Luis? So Eric is my blue one, Luis is my red one. So they caught each other at 2 seconds. Okay, so 2 seconds. After 1 second, who's in first, second, and third? So I'm gonna kind of expand my graph here. I'm gonna grab a different color. Let's say I do this pink. I'm going to come to 1 second. I'm going to draw a line at 1 second. Okay, so that's where I'm looking. And I want to see, if I follow this, who is the closest to the finish line. So this is going to be person 1. This is going to be person 2. This is going to be person 3. So Valeria is going to be first place after 1 second, then Luis, then Eric. So number 1 is Valeria. Number 2 is Luis. Number 3 is Eric. Okay, on letter E, when does Valeria finish the race? So Valeria finishes the race at, let's see, 8 seconds. Okay, so now on number 3, what is the range of this function? So the range is going to be the high to the low. So the lowest that this graph goes, is here at -4. The highest this graph goes is here at 4. So it is going to be letter A. On number 4, they want us to find what, if f of x is 1, what's the value of x? So if f of x is 1, I want to look at a height of 1. That's what I'm looking at. And I want to see what would my x be. So looking at it, my x would be -3. On number 5, what is the y-intercept of the following line? So this is the form y equal mx plus b. So my y-intercept is the 7. We write it as 0,7. On number 6, couple things. Anytime I raise anything to the power 0, that's a 1. So what I have here, that's just going to be a 1. We also do not like negative exponents. So this, I'm going to be moving to the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to have 1 over, and then on the bottom, I'm going to have an x squared times a 1, but I don't need to write the times 1. So it's going to be 1 over x squared, which is b. On number 8, we want to solve for x. So I am going to add 5 to both sides. I'm going to get y plus 5 is equal to 2x. I'm going to divide by 2. And I'm going to get y plus 5 over 2 is equal to x. On number 9, I have to work out x minus 5 squared. I need to remember that that's an x minus 5 times an x minus 5. So I am going to do a box. I'm going to have an x and a minus 5, an x and a minus 5. Now, when I multiply x, this first row is going to be x times x and x times negative 5. So that is going to give me an x squared and a negative 5x. My second row, I'm going to take negative 5 times x and negative 5 times negative 5. So I'm going to get a negative 5x and a 25. Now your answer is adding up everything inside, combining like terms. So I'm going to have x squared minus 10x plus 25. Okay, on number 1 on the next page, solve for y. So I am going to minus 2x from both sides. Now you have to be careful. There's a negative in front of that 3y, so it's a negative 3y. 12 minus 2x. I'm going to divide by negative 3. I'm going to divide by negative 3. Now, either I can divide that whole side by negative 3, or I can divide separately. I'm going to divide separately and get a negative 4, and then a negative over a negative is a positive 2/3 x. On number 2, I'm going to distribute 2 with the x and 2 with the 4. So 2 times x is 2x, 2 times 4 is 8. And then I have a 2x plus 7. I'm going to get rid of the x's, so I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides, and I'm going to get 8 equals 7. So that's going to be no solution. On number 3, what is the equation of the line? So my y-intercept is at 3, and I'm going down, let's see. I'm going down 1, 2, 3 over 2. So I'm going down 3 over 2. So I'm going to have y is equal to my slope, which is down 3 over 2x, plus my y-intercept, which is 3. On the next one, my y-intercept is 0. And then I'm going up 1, 2, every 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to have y is equal to up to every 3x plus 0, but you don't really need the 0. So you can just give me y equal to 2/3 x. On number 5, I am going to distribute my negative 2 to the x and to the 1. So it's going to be a 5 minus 2x minus 2 is equal to 4. I am going to combine like terms on this side. So I'm going to get a 3 minus 2x is equal to 4. I'm going to minus 3 from both sides. Remember, there's a negative in front of my 2, so it's a negative 2x is equal to 1. I'm going to divide by a negative 2, and so I get x is equal to a negative 1/2. On number 6, my xy is going to multiply with the 2x and with the 5. So I'm going to get 2. Now, an x times an x is an x squared, so it's going to be a 2x squared y minus 5xy, and that's your answer. On number 7, I'm going to minus 5 minus 5. I'm going to have a negative x over 3 is equal to 1. What I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by a 3, but I'm going to do it also by a negative 3. because a negative times a negative will be a positive, and then my 3's are cancel out. So I'm going to get x is equal to -3. And let me just say this, another way you could have also solved this problem. If I have my 5 minus x over 3 equals 6, I could fraction best right away. I could times this by 3, this by 3, this by 3. So I get 15 minus. Here, those 3's would cancel out. X equals 18. I am going to minus 15 from both sides and get a negative x is equal to 3. And then divide by a negative and get x is equal to -3. Same answer, just a different way of thinking about it. On number 8, what is the equation of a line? Perpendicular. So perpendicular. If my original slope is 2/3, then my perpendicular slope is going to be the negative reciprocal. So it's going to be the opposite sign, so negative, and then flip it 3/2. And this happens to be my y-intercept. They're being very nice. So my equation is going to be y equal -3/2 x plus 3. That's the equation. On number 9, what type of transformation is shown below? So what's happening here is this y-axis is the line of symmetry. So we are reflecting across the y-axis. And I'll put in parentheses, the y-axis is actually the equation x equals 0. So I'll also put across the y-axis, which is x equals 0. What is the equation of a line that goes through 2, 4 with a slope of 1/2? So I'm going to go y is equal to 1/2 x plus b. And I am going to substitute this point, 2, 4, 4 for my y, 2 for my x, because this is x, y, plus b. So I'm going to get 4 is equal to, now here it's 2 over 2, or that 2 and 2 cancel, and I get a 1 plus b. I'm going to minus 1 from both sides, and I get b is equal to 3. So my goal was to write an equation. So I know it's going to be 1/2 x, they told me that, plus 3. That's our equation. On number 11, what is the slope of the equation? We need to get it in y form. So I'm going to minus 4x here, minus 4x here. And I'm going to get y is equal to a -4x plus 2. So now that it's in y form, I can see that my slope is going to be -4. On 12, 6x squared is really a 6x times a 6x. So I'm going to get a 36x squared as my answer. On 13, give the point for the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So this point here is my x-intercept. That's going to be 0, 3. This point right here, it looks like it's going to be 1.5, 0. So my x-intercept is 1.5, 0, and my y-intercept is 0, 3. On 14, create an equation from this table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be looking here at my y's, and I can see that my change of y's is -2. Change of y is -2. Now my change of x is a 3. My change of x is a 3. So slope is equal to change of y over change of x. So it's going to be a -2 over 3. So I am going to have y is equal to -2/3 x. Now I want my 0. Now I can go backwards 3 and get 0, which means over here I'm going to go backwards 2. And so what's happening here, let me do it this way. I'm going to be minusing 3 to get to my 0. I am going to be adding 2 to get to here. So this is going to be 0, 1. So my y-intercept is going to be 1. And that's my equation. Y equal -2/3 x plus 0. What is the recursive and explicit formula for the sequence? So first off, what I'm doing is I am dividing by 5, but instead of dividing by 5, think about it as multiply by the reciprocal 1/5. So my recursive equation, I'm going to write f of 1 is equal to 10, and f of n is equal to f of n minus 1. That's always how I start my recursives. And what am I doing? I'm timesing it by 1/5. Now my explicit, I like to have my 0 for my explicit. So let me go backwards. So going backwards, I would be timesing by 5. So that's going to be a 50. So my f of 0 is going to be 50. So my equation is going to be f of n. Okay, I don't need that f of 0 written out. I just needed to find the 0. So f of n is equal to 50 times, I'm not adding, I'm multiplying, times 1/5 to the power n. On the next one, it looks like I am minusing 7. So for this one, my recursive f of 1 is equal to 10. F of n is equal to f of n minus 1 minus 7. For my explicit, again, I need to go backwards and find my 0. So going backwards, I'm going to add 7, which is going to give me a 17. So let me just jot down my f of 0 was 17. So I know my f of n. I'm starting with 17. I'm minusing 7 n times. On 17, I want the first 3 terms. So what I'm going to do is I am going to be working out 0.05 times 2 to the first, 0.05 times 2 to the second, 0.05 times 2 to the third. Okay, I can put it in my calculator or I can do it in my head. So 2 to the first is 2, half of it. Let me rewrite that. This is a 0.5. So this is going to be half of 2, which is 1. This is going to be half of 2 squared, which is 4. So half of 4 is 2. The next one's going to be half of 2 cubed, which is 8. So half of 8 is 4. So it's going to be 1, 2, 4. On the next one, we want to write the recursive for this. So I found my f of 1. It was 1. And then it's going to be f of n is equal to f of n minus 1. And then I look to see, what am I doing? This right here is my common ratio. This means I'm multiplying by 2. So I'm going to go times 2. On 19, they want us to give the explicit formula. So I know my first term is 2, and I know I'm adding 3. So I know it's going to be 2, add 3, 5, add 3, 8, add 3, 11, and so forth. So if I want to go backwards and find my 0, instead of adding 3, I'm going to be minusing 3, and I'm going to have a -1. So I'm going to have f of n is equal to -1, and I'm adding 3n, and that's my equation. Give an example of an arithmetic sequence and tell me everything you know about it. So for this, an arithmetic sequence, for example, would be 2, 7, 12, 17, ... where I'm adding 5. They'd want a table. So for a table, I'm going to have my 1 be 2. My 2 is 7, because that's my second term. My 3 is 12. My 4 is 17, and so forth. If I wanted to write equations, my recursive, I'm going to have f of 1 is 2, and f of n is going to equal f of n minus 1 plus 5. My explicit, if I go backwards and find my 0, so this direction I'm adding 5. So going this direction, I'm going to minus 5. So that's going to be a negative 3. So it's going to be f of n is equal to negative 3. And I'm adding 5 n times. Then for a graph, let me just get a graph here. So blank grid. Okay, let's just say insert this one. Okay, so for this, I would be plotting 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so forth. Okay, so I would not connect the points with a line because it is going to be discrete. Okay, so that's an example. Don't give me my example back, give me a different example. Okay, on this next review, this one, f of 1, is what they want me to find. So I'm going to go to 1. I'm going to draw a vertical line at 1. And I see that I'm crossing here at 4. So my answer is 4. F of 1 is 4. On number 2, this and this both have negative exponents. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to keep my y to the 5th on top. I'm going to take the 2x, and now it's going to be to the 2nd power, and then my x to the 3rd power. Now on bottom, my 2x to the 2nd power is going to be a 4x squared. And then if I look at this x to the 3rd over x to the 2nd, I'm going to end up getting y to the 5th over 4, and x to the 3rd over x to the 2nd is going to have an x on top. And that's my answer. This is going to give me a 2x plus 8 is equal to a 2x plus 7. I'm going to minus 2x from both sides. And I'm going to get 8 is equal to 7, so no solution. On number 4, I'm going to solve for y, so I'm going to minus 2x. I'm going to minus 2x. I'm going to get a negative 3 is equal to a negative 2x plus 12. I'm going to divide by negative 3, divide by negative 3, divide by negative 3. Y is equal to a positive 2/3 x minus 4. Okay, on number 5. So I am minusing 2. I am adding 3. So going backwards, I'm going to be adding 2. So that's going to put me at 1. And I'm going to be subtracting 3, which is going to put me at 0. So I'm going to have y is equal to, your slope is equal to your change of y over change of x. So that's going to be a negative 2/3. So it's going to be a negative 2/3 x plus 1. It looks like a couple of these are repeats from the other worksheet. So on this one, what is the x-intercept? The x-intercept is right here. That is going to be at negative 4, 0. My y-intercept is right here. That's going to be at 0, negative 2. My slope, I'm moving down to, so I'm going to say negative 2 and over 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to be a negative 2/4, or I could reduce that to a negative 1/2. Now they ask us for the equation, so it's going to be y is equal to negative 1/2, which is the slope x, and then my y-intercept minus 2. Write an explicit equation for the following. So I'm going to go backwards and find my 0. So it's going to be a 1. So I'm going to go f of n is equal to 1, because that would be my 0. And I am adding 2 n times. They want recursive for this, so I'm going to start with f of 1 is equal to 3. And f of n is going to equal f of n minus 1. And then I'm adding 2. On number 9, they're telling us that f of 1 is 2, and they want us to give the first 5 terms, so 2. This right here is saying I'm adding 4. So 6, 10, 14, 18. On the next one, what's the value of x when f of x is equal to 4? So if f of x is equal to 4, I'm going to come to 4 horizontally here, height of 4, and I see that that's going to occur at that 5. So x is equal to 5. Again, I feel like this one's a repeat. X minus 5 times x minus 5. So we're going to work this out. X minus 5, x minus 5. I get an x squared minus 5x minus 5x and a positive 25. So it's going to be x squared minus 10x. Let me write that better. Minus 10x plus 25. That is your answer. On this one seems like this one we did before. I will do it the other way, where I am going to fraction bust it. So I'm going to multiply everything by 3. Let me just scooch this over. Multiply that by 3. And on the other side, I'm going to times by 3. So I'm going to get 15 minus, and then here these two 3's are cancel out. X is equal to 18. I'm going to minus 15 from both sides. I get a negative x is equal to 3. So x is equal to negative 3. On number 13, I'm going to do a box. I'm going to take a 2x minus 3, times it by a 5x plus 6. And when I do that, I am going to get a 30x squared, a negative 15x, a 12x, and a negative 18. And again, I need to combine like terms. So I am going to get a 30x squared minus 3x minus 18. That's your answer. On 14, I'm going to distribute that negative 2 So 5 minus 2x minus 2 is equal to 4. Combine like terms. 3 minus 2x is equal to 4. So negative 2x is equal to negative 1 when positive 1 when I subtract 3. So x is equal to a negative 1/2. Okay, on this one it says examine the graph, determine the equation of the given line. What correlation coefficient would you estimate for the scatter plot? So for this, I would use these 2 points that they gave us here, this point and this point. Now we know what the y-intercept is that they use. So it's going to be y is equal to 5,000. That's going to be our start. Plus, now how am I moving from here to here? I'm going up 10. Sorry, I'm going up 2,000 every 10. So it's going to be 2,000 over 10x. Now I can reduce that. 2,000 over 10 is going to be 200, so 200x. And then if you're looking for this correlation coefficient, remember it is going to be between -1 and 1. Okay, I'm not going to give you an answer. You can make your own prediction. It's going to have to be positive because this is increasing. And remember, the closer to 1, the more perfect the line. The further from 1, the more scattered. So you should be giving me an answer somewhere between 0 and 1. And I would say it's probably closer to 1 than to 0. So you're going to give me a value somewhere between there. This one, what is the equation of the line perpendicular? So perpendicular, I'm going to take the slope. I'm going to flip it and change the sign. So -3/2. And then they gave me the y-intercept. So y is equal to a -3/2 x plus 3. Equation of the line going through the point. So y is equal to, my slope is 1/4 x plus my b. So I'm going to put in the 4 for my y, the 2 for my x. I get 4 is equal to 2 plus b. So b is equal to 2. So my equation is going to be y is equal to 1/2 x plus 2. Transformation. This is going to be a reflection across the y-axis. Or the line x equals 0. Find the recursive for this. So recursive, I need to find like my first term. So I'm going to work out 0.5 times 2 to the power 1. When I work that out, 0.5 times 2, half of 2 is 1. So f of 1 is 1. And then f of n is equal to f of n minus 1. And then what I'm doing is multiplying by 2. So times 2. So again, some of these look like they are repeats, sorry. So for this recursive, f of 1 is 10. And f of n is equal to f of n minus 1. And I am dividing by 5, which is multiplying by 1/5. So I'm going to times this by 1/5. Recursive, explicit, I want to find my 0. So going backwards, my 0 would be 50. So it's going to be f of n is equal to 50 times 1/5 to the power n. Now here, my 2 is going to be cubed. when I do x to the second raised to the third power, power to power I multiply, I'm going to get x to the 6. My 3 is going to be squared. When I take x to the 0 raised to the second, power to power I multiply, I get 0. X to the 0 is just a 1. 2 to the third is an 8. This is going to stay x to the 6th. 3 to the second is a 9. So I'm going to get a 72 x to the 6th. On 22, my domain is from left to right. So my domain -3 square bracket to 5 square bracket. My range, the highest it goes and lowest it goes. So looking at this, okay, just going to draw. Okay, so the highest it goes looks like about a 4. The lowest it goes, it looks like about a -3. So my range is going to be from -3 to 4, close brackets. For this, I'm going to distribute the 3 in and get a 3x minus 6 equals. I'm going to distribute the 5 in and get a 5x plus 20. I'm going to minus 3x. I get a -6 is equal to 2x plus 20. I'm going to minus 20. I get a -26 is equal to 2x. I divide by 2 and I get a -13. On number 24, my y-intercept is 4, so I'm going to go up to 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where I'm going to put my point. And then my slope is a -2, so I'm going to go down 2 to the right 1. Down 2 to the right 1. And I'm going to keep doing that. And then I'm going to draw my line through those points. F of 100. So I'm going to take 4 times 100 minus 10. So that's going to be 400 minus 10, or 390. On 26, I have $700 in my bank account, but spend $50 each week. Write an equation to represent how much money I will have in the account after X weeks. So Y is equal to, starting with 700. Sorry, let me get back to my page. Starting with 700. And we're spending $50, so minus 50 each week, so 50x. Now, this one, we are earning 5% interest. And what happens if we have 5% interest, this actually is going to be exponential. We haven't really talked about this. We'll talk about it more second semester. So if I have 100%, because that's what I have currently, and I'm gaining 5%, I'm now going to have 105%. Okay, if I was losing 5%, I would have 100% minus 5%. I would have 95%, for example, just as an example. So my multiplier for the top one, I move my decimal 2 places and I get 1.05. For the bottom one, I would have had a 0.95. Now, we are not losing 5%. We are gaining 5%. So I'm going to start with my 1,000. And every single year, I'm multiplying it by 1.05. to the power x. I'm going to distribute, okay, a 2xy times a 5x is an 8x squared y. A 2xy times a 5y is a 10xy squared. So for this, you need to talk about rotation, reflection, translation. So a couple things that I'm going to say here. Rotations, reflections, and translations keep shape the same size and shape. Let me just shrink this a little bit. A rotation turns. A rotation is a spin. A reflection is a flip. And a translation is a slide. That's what they are. How do you know if there is no solution when you're solving an equation? So you end up with a no solution. So if your variables disappear and you are left with a false statement, then there is no solution. Domain and range. So domain, all possible x values for a graph. Range, all possible y values for a graph. And when I'm doing this and I'm thinking about domain, I'm thinking left to right. What's the furthest to the left? What's the furthest to the right? When I'm talking about thinking about domain, I'm thinking what is the low to high. What kind of sequence has a linear graph? And arithmetic sequence has a linear graph. What is a y-intercept? A y-intercept is the point that a graph crosses the y-axis. The next one, we want the equation of a line through these 2 points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my slope. I'm going to do change of y over change of x. So my y's 5 and 17. So I'm going to go 17 minus 5. And my change of x, my x's are my 8 and my 2. I have to keep the order. So since I did 17 first, I'm going to do 8 first. So 8 minus 2. And I'm going to get 12 over 6 or 2. Write the equation of a line parallel. So parallel means same slope. So I'm going to have y is equal to negative 2x, and then this is a y-intercept. So plus 7. So that is my line. The slope of this, can't determine the slope until you get your y by itself. So here, let me move it over. So I'm going to have 2y is equal to a positive 3x plus 12. I am going to divide by 2, so I'm going to have a 3/2 x plus 6 when I divide both of them by 2. So my slope is a 3/2. Common ratio here, so I'm going to actually have to do some math. I'm going to take 3.2. I'm going to divide it by 2. And when I divide it by 2, I'm going to get a 1.6. So my common ratio is 1.6. Was the common difference here? So what I'm doing in this case, my common difference is going to be a -6. And that's the end of this video.